You've probably seen this video before. A knife sliding through food with zero effort. It looks amazing, and when we see this, we all think if I have that high-end knife, my skill will be changed instantly. But let me tell you the truth. Spending 300 bucks on a Japanese knife never changed your skill overnight. I was exactly the same. When I first started working in the kitchen, I wanted to have professional kitchen knives, but I knew nothing. So I asked my seniors for advice, but they always say, you have to feel the knife or find the one that fits you. Honestly, I had no idea what that meant. How do I know if it fits just by feeling? Because I'm just starting the work. I was so confused, so I just bought a famous brand for my first knife. Of course, at the first, I was excited, but it didn't fit my style and it took me a long time just to get used to it. Since then, I started spending my paycheck on knives. One by one, I collected them. After using dozens of knives, I finally understood that feeling my senior talked about. I started studying the science of knife making. That is when I could finally explain it with logic. I enjoyed learning, but my wallet wasn't happy. Professional knives are not cheap. For a cook just starting out, it's a huge investment. I don't want you to waste your money like I did. So today, I will show you the factors people often overlook when buying a first professional knife. These are the things that actually make difference. Please watch until the end. First, let's fix the profile. Today, we are only talking about chef knives. For your main knives, the chef knife is the best profile. For length, at least 21 cm, but my top recommendation is 24 cm because when you prep large ingredients, 21 cm can feel short sometimes. If 24 cm feels too big to control, then stick with 21 cm. That's totally fine. The next is the price. Buying within your budget is most important thing. Since this is your main knife and first knife, I recommend a Workhorse. If it's too expensive, you will be too scared to use it. If it's too cheap, the performance will be poor. So I recommend investing between 150 bucks and 300 bucks in Australian dollars. Now I know some of you might be thinking, why not just buying 50 bucks of knives? If you sharpen it well and use the honing rod frequently, you should be fine. Yes, if you are cooking at home, that's perfectly fine. But in professional kitchen, it's a different story. In a high volume environment, stopping to use honing rod every 10 minutes breaks your work efficiency and your rhythm. Also, the quality of the prepped ingredients is different. Once you upgrade to this level and feel the consistent performance, it's almost impossible to downgrade back to the cheap tools. Please trust me in this part. Okay, let's do the quick recap here. These are the fixed standards I've set for choosing your first professional knife. Number 1, profile. Chef knife profile. I highly recommend the Japanese Gyuto. Number 2, length. 21 cm or 24 cm. Number 3, price. Set your budget between 150 to 300 Australian dollars. I've now given you the clear-cut standards for a main knife. Now, let's talk about details that directly affect your personal performance and the knife's actual performance. Now, you need to decide on the balance. You can usually tell the balance just by looking at the handle. This is helpful even if you're buying it online. Number 1, Full-tang with a bolster. The weight is usually in the handle side. It's good for rocking cuts. Number 2, Full-tang without bolster. This is the hardest to predict. Usually, handle side is a bit heavy, but some makers hollowed out the handle to move the balance forward the blade. It's generally more balanced than the number 1. Number 3, wa handle. It's the Japanese style with a wooden handle. The weight is a little bit towards the blade. This creates a blade heavy balance. I can give you some tips. If you are not sure of your style yet, choose something close to a pinch grip balance. That's the option 2 or 3. They are usually the safest option. Now, let's talk about steel. This is where knife's real performance is decided. How sharp it can get and how long the sharpness lasts. When steel is heat treated, it becomes harder. This hardness is measured as HRC, the Rockwell hardness scale. Even with the same steel, different heat treatment means different hardness. You might think, so harder is always better, right? Not exactly. As hardness goes up, the blade becomes more brittle. It chips more easily. And sharpening becomes harder. So what's the right range? For professional use, 58 HRC is the baseline. From this point, you can call it professional knife. Most knives given in culinary school sits around 54 to 56 HRC. 1 point of HRC make a bigger difference than you think. Hardness is not everything, but it's not something you should ignore. For your first serious knife, 58 to 60 HRC is the sweet spot. It's sharp, it holds an edge well, and it's still manageable to sharpen. Personally, I often recommend Japanese steel because Japan developed steel specifically for kitchen knives. A well-known example is VG10. At the same hardness, VG10 is much easier to resharpen. Within a budget of 150 to 300 AUD, these steels are solid choice. I didn't want to overload you with technical terms, but these are worth knowing. Some brands don't clearly list the steel, but if it's not clear, you can pass through at this stage because there's still a lot of options with clear list of the steel. I didn't want to use too many difficult terms, but I think it's good to know at least these. Some brands don't clearly state the steel. For now, I recommend choosing from products that clearly list the steel they use. Just doing that still leaves you with plenty of good options. This topic of steel and hardness is important and the information can get quite deep. I honestly spend a lot of time thinking about how much I should explain. So I limited it to the information you need to choose your first main knife. Don't go too deep and forget the core of the cooking itself. Otherwise, you will end up like me. Let's summarize what we covered. There's a fixed standard. The profile is chef knife. The size, 21 centimeter or 24 centimeter length. The budget, 150 to 300 Australian dollars. That's the fixed standard. And then from here, you should choose yourself. Depends on your taste. For the balance, bolster-free full-tang or wa handle, the Japanese style, the wooden handle. And then the steel and hardness, I recommend 50 to 60 Rockwell hardness scale and those type of steels. Let's wrap this up. Today wasn't about telling you which brand to buy. It was about giving you standards. If you remember just these things, choosing a knife becomes much easier. These standards will stay useful even as your skill level grows. And yes, these are the same principles I use when I design the Hephais knives. I design based on real kitchen experience, not marketing hypes. If this helped you, take your time before buying your next knife. And if you want to go deeper, we can talk about blade geometry next. I'll see you in the next video. Stay sharp!